In 116 CE, Emperor Trajan led Rome to its greatest territorial reach, with conquests stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Caspian Sea and from the frontiers of Britain deep into Mesopotamia. The Roman military achieved an unprecedented level of expansion, yet at the same time managed to govern these enormous territories with remarkable efficiency for centuries. The question, then, is what lay behind this success. Rome's capacity to expand and control such a vast empire rested on a combination of factors. Foremost among them was its formidable military, followed later by a series of critical reforms introduced under influential figures such as King Servius Tullius, General Gaius Marius, and Emperor Augustus. Alongside this military strength, Rome developed an effective bureaucracy and taxation system, made extensive use of roads, coinage, and religion, and strategically absorbed customs from other cultures, particularly the Greeks and Persians, all of which played essential roles in imperial stability. From its founding in the 8th century BCE, Rome learned to adapt quickly to emerging threats. Early conflicts with neighboring Italic peoples prompted shifts in warfare strategy, as small-scale raids and skirmishes gradually gave way to territorial conquest and the subjugation of enemies. Greek military equipment and battlefield tactics strongly influenced Roman methods of fighting, reshaping how Roman armies engaged in combat. By the late period of the Roman kingdom, reforms introduced under King Servius Tullius required Roman citizens to serve in the military to defend their homeland, organizing enlistment according to social class and personal wealth. With the rise of the Republic in the late 6th century BCE, Rome's military became increasingly professionalized, as constant warfare during the conquest of Italy hardened and refined its forces. By the end of the 4th century BCE, the Roman army had expanded to 4 legions organized under the more flexible Manipular system, a response to the challenges posed by Rome's expansion across the Italian peninsula, particularly during wars against the Gauls and Samnites. As Roman power extended beyond Italy, further adaptations followed to meet more formidable enemies. The Punic Wars against Carthage forced Rome to fight for survival and taught it the critical importance of logistics and long-term strategic planning. Subsequent conflicts with Greek kingdoms such as Epirus and Macedonia led to further tactical evolution, as Roman armies became more adaptable to varied terrain while securing a permanent presence in the eastern Mediterranean. By the end of the 2nd century BCE, the traditional citizen army was no longer sufficient to meet Rome's ongoing military demands. Under Gaius Marius, attitudes toward military service shifted as enlistment was opened to the landless poor. This change transformed the Roman army into a professional standing force, with soldiers serving longer terms and the military reorganized from the Manipular system into the more flexible and powerful cohort structure, which became the foundation of Roman battlefield tactics. Soldiers were issued standardized equipment, often subsidized by the state, and in later years of the Republic, veterans could receive land grants in return for their service. In effect, Rome abandoned the part-time citizen militia in favor of a permanent professional army capable of sustaining prolonged campaigns and supporting an ever-expanding state. Following the civil wars of the late Republic, Augustus emerged in 27 BCE as Rome's first emperor and introduced sweeping reforms. Among the most significant was the reduction of the oversized military to 28 legions, creating a more streamlined and efficient force loyal directly to the emperor. Previously, legions had been raised for specific conflicts and disbanded after roughly 6 years, but these 28 legions were intended to form a permanent standing army composed of long-serving veterans. Drawing on his experience during the civil wars, Augustus understood that a soldier's loyalty depended heavily on reliable pay. To prevent financial instability, he established the aerarium militare, a military treasury funded by new taxes as part of broader fiscal reforms. This treasury ensured the payment of veterans' pensions, reinforcing loyalty and stability within the ranks. Augustus also reorganized the auxiliary forces, integrating non-citizen troops who fought alongside the legions and were granted Roman citizenship upon completion of their service. These reforms centralized authority while maintaining firm control over the military, allowing it to remain the backbone of a continually expanding empire. The success of the legions depended not only on structure, but also on leadership and the political framework supporting them. Roman generals were encouraged to be opportunistic and adaptable, exploiting advantages wherever they appeared on the battlefield. This strategic flexibility was matched by political leadership capable of mobilizing vast resources, while institutions such as the Senate fostered a culture of loyalty, sacrifice, and duty to the state. Together, these military and political strengths enabled Rome to sustain expansion and consolidate its power. The effectiveness of the Roman army lay not merely in its size, but in its organization and adaptability. Legions were highly disciplined units with hierarchical command structures that allowed for coordination and flexibility in combat. This versatility extended beyond the battlefield. During campaigns, legions routinely constructed fortified camps at the end of each day, providing secure bases and minimizing the risk of surprise attacks. Roman soldiers were trained in a wide range of skills, functioning not only as fighters, but also as engineers, laborers, and craftsmen who built camps, forts, bridges, and siege engines essential for both offense and defense. Artillery specialists operated advanced weapons such as ballistae and onagers during sieges, while support personnel ensured efficient logistics, from supplying troops to maintaining the extensive road networks that enabled rapid movement and communication across the empire. This blend of skills made the Roman army a highly organized, self-sustaining system capable of operating for long periods in diverse environments. Yet conquest was only the beginning. After each campaign came the difficult task of integrating conquered peoples into the Roman world. Control was not maintained through force alone. The Romans strongly believed in the idea of universal law, striving to create a single legal system applicable to all citizens and subjects, which helped unify the empire under a shared legal framework. Law became a key instrument in bringing diverse populations under Roman authority. As local communities and elites demonstrated loyalty, they could be gradually incorporated into Roman governance. Diplomacy played a crucial role in this process, whether in forming alliances, isolating enemies, or justifying wars when necessary. Integration often began with the granting of partial citizenship, which offered legal protections, military obligations, and limited civic rights. Over time, and through continued service or loyalty, some subjects could attain full citizenship, gaining the right to vote, marry under Roman law, and appeal within the legal system. By extending citizenship in this way, Rome offered not only legal security and economic opportunity, but also the prestige of belonging to the empire itself. It was a strategy designed to assimilate conquered peoples and cultivate loyalty to Rome above all else, creating invaluable reservoirs of talent across the ancient world. Over time, the gradual extension of citizenship helped to Romanize vast regions of the empire, making governance more manageable and enhancing imperial cohesion. Most importantly, Romanization expanded the pool of military recruitment, enabling the raising of new legions or the replenishment of existing ones. The formation and maintenance of legions were supported by a diverse and extensive network of taxation and a complex bureaucracy, partially inspired by earlier Persian administrative models. Taxes were essential for funding the army, constructing infrastructure, and sustaining the expansive governmental apparatus required to administer distant provinces. However, given the empire's immense size, the Roman tax system was not uniform everywhere. Land taxes were sometimes based on the productivity of the property, while in other areas they were assessed according to the type of land, regardless of output. Customs duties and trade taxes were applied to goods transported throughout the empire, providing a significant portion of state revenue, particularly in crucial regions like Egypt and along the eastern frontier. Occasional wealth taxes targeted personal assets, yet the burden of taxation was unevenly distributed, with certain regions and social classes bearing heavier loads than others. The collection and management of these taxes were carried out by trained officials and state magistrates, with meticulous record censuses, land registries, and other documents maintained to allow the Roman state to monitor its resources and population effectively. The grain supply system, or Annona, stands as perhaps the most renowned example of Rome's ability to manage resources on a massive scale, coordinating the collection and distribution of grain to feed the city of Rome and its legions. Additionally, the use of legal contracts and standardized procedures across the empire ensured that tax obligations were clear and enforceable for local populations. Rome's approach to governance contrasted with its often dismissive view of foreign cultures. While Romans sometimes regarded peoples outside their empire as barbarians, they were pragmatic in administering new territories, frequently showing respect for local customs, traditions, and leadership. This pragmatism was essential to maintaining stability and loyalty within a vast and culturally diverse empire. Even under its philosophy of universal rule, Rome allowed varying degrees of local autonomy in the provinces, permitting local leaders to retain some authority as long as they pledged allegiance to Rome and fulfilled fiscal and military obligations. This policy of respecting local governance minimized resistance to Roman rule, and Falan made the management of extensive territories more feasible. Furthermore, Rome's use of client states and allied regions created a network of semi-independent territories loyal to Rome, contributing to border defense. These foreign populations also became integral to the Roman army, as non-citizen auxiliary troops played crucial roles supporting the legions. In some cases, auxiliaries were prioritized by commanders for specialized functions, including serving as shock troops, cavalry, and skirmishers, roles that traditional Roman soldiers sometimes lacked. Over time, the prolonged service of foreign soldiers often led to their assimilation into Roman society, incorporating diverse cultures politically. Much like in Hellenistic Greece, local elites were integrated into the aristocracy as Roman culture, law, and language gradually permeated the provinces. With each newly conquered territory, Roman legions returned with a wealth of treasures and resources. These included enslaved people, who became vital to the economy, precious metals such as gold and silver, which funded coinage and further military campaigns, and agricultural produce, which supplied both the populace and the army. The acquisition of mineral-rich regions, including silver mines in Spain and gold mines in Dacia, significantly bolstered Rome's treasury. Moreover, incorporating new lands expanded markets and trade networks. Roman merchants conducted commerce throughout the Mediterranean and beyond, importing luxury goods such as spices, silk, and ivory from regions as distant as India and China. Wealth generated from conquests and trade not only financed continuous military expansion, but also supported monumental public works, including temples, aqueducts, and roads, which helped emperors maintain public favor long after successful campaigns. Ports and harbors, particularly along the Mediterranean, served both as naval bases for the Roman fleet and as hubs for commerce and military logistics. They encouraged urbanization by connecting distant frontiers with the capital and other major cities, weaving them into the economic framework of the empire. These developments ensured the steady flow of wealth and resources needed to sustain both military operations and administrative functions. Urban growth and the founding of colonies were central to Rome's strategy for securing and Romanizing newly conquered lands, particularly in regions of military or economic importance. These colonies functioned as garrisons to suppress potential uprisings, centers of Roman culture, and hubs of economic activity. Veterans of the legions were frequently settled in these colonies as a reward for their service. establishing a loyal, Romanized population. This not only promoted the dissemination of Roman customs, language, and law, but also helped integrate local communities into the Roman state, reinforcing control over the provinces. Cultural integration was also a vital component of Roman expansion, much as it had been for their Persian and Hellenistic predecessors. Roman soldiers brought with them their customs, language, and religion, embedding these elements through architecture, such as amphitheaters and public baths, which became focal points of social and cultural life in conquered regions. Religion played a particularly significant role in maintaining cohesion within the empire. Rome often adopted and Romanized foreign deities, enabling conquered peoples to continue practicing their religions while aligning them with Roman beliefs. Central to this was the deification of emperors, which began with Augustus after his death. This religious syncretism helped to placate and integrate diverse populations, fostering the cultural and political stability necessary to sustain Rome's vast territories. While Trajan's reign marked the peak of Roman power, the empire endured for another 3.5 centuries in Europe and nearly a millennium longer in the East. This longevity was due to Rome's continued reliance on military strength, administrative efficiency, economic integration, and cultural assimilation. This proven formula allowed the empire to survive catastrophe after catastrophe and leave enduring legacies well beyond its borders, influencing modern law, infrastructure, and culture across many regions of the world.